All right, so again, welcome everyone. The MFA documentary media information session. So thank you for joining us, and we have here we're here to help you answer as many questions as we can about the program and any doubts you may have about applying and what happens in the program. We have Dr. Owen Lyons here as the program director for documentary media program. We also have Mauro Chiara, who's one of the program administrators in the program, and then myself, Daniel Garcia. So we are sort of like your team that will help you go work through the admission process, work through the program once you're inside in the program. We also have Eleni and Tanisha Boyd as part of our team that you may see those names throughout the process. So really excited to have you, and I'm just going to pass it over to Dr. Owen Lyons.
Thanks a lot, Daniel. My name's Owen Lyons. I'm the director of the Doc Media program. And I'm also a professor in a few different programs here at TMU in the Image Arts programs, film, as well as the FPPCM program. I'm just going to start today with the land acknowledgement. Toronto is in the Dish with One Spoon territory. The Dish with One Spoon is a treaty between the Anishinaabe, Mississaugas, and the Haudenosaunee that bound them to share the territory and protect the land. Subsequent Indigenous nations and peoples, Europeans, and all newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. The development of this land acknowledgement was quite key for TMU, formerly Ryerson University, as you probably know a little bit about the history. And I'd encourage you to check out more information about that on our website, and the changing of the university's name, and the development of this land acknowledgement was actually a group of TMU professors who were heavily involved in this across the entire country of Canada, actually. So thank you for joining here today. I'm going to talk a little bit about the academic side of the Doc Media MFA program. It is an MFA, Master of Fine Arts, and that is a terminal degree, similar in a sense to a PhD. It is the sort of highest ranking degree you can get within the arts and creative fields. And I should underline that this is a program that has a quite involved production side of it, as well as a theoretical side. So it's sort of a two-pronged program, but you definitely create work in this program. You create documentary film or photo project or installation. There's a really wide variety of projects that come out of the program. With a degree like this, you have a leg up on employment opportunities, such as teaching at university. An MFA is sort of a minimum requirement, I would say, at this point for getting a teaching or professorial job at a place like TMU. Other universities that teach in the creative fields, MFAs are very highly regarded. And I'd say in the arts world as it's becoming something that you really do want to consider getting. And I think it brings a sort of seriousness to your practice. We see a lot of people entering this program directly from an undergraduate degree, sometimes from a BFA. But we also see people entering this program who actually are practicing artists, or maybe artists who've been working for quite some time and are coming back to school to get this degree and sort of add that credential to their CV. If you would like to learn more about alumni in the program, you can check out our alumni showcase on the website, which has quite an extensive list of projects from past years. And many of our alumni go on to work in either documentary media or teach in higher education, and a wide variety of sort of strands coming out of the program. So the components of the program are basically you're creating throughout the program a major research project, which has three components. You're creating a documentary visual project, whether that is film, Those are generally about 20 to 30 minutes long, although sometimes we have actually seen feature films created in the program. It's a lot of work, but some people have done it. You also might be creating a photo book, a photo installation, gallery show. But as part of the requirement of an MFA program, you need to produce not only produce a visual work, but mount it and show it in a public setting. And this program gives you an opportunity to do just that. By the end of the program, I'll talk about this a little bit more in a minute, but you actually show your work in Toronto in either a gallery or theater as part of a program called Doc Now. And I'll talk about that a little bit more later. So the second component is a support paper, which is your theoretically engaged, historically engaged paper that backs up all the research you've been doing during the 2-year degree and really situates your visual project within the kind of landscape of other documentary projects that you find inspiring, and also situates it in the discourse on documentary media that you'll be learning and becoming more basically, I would say, engaged in, like immersed in the program. And so you create a paper, which you complete at the end of the second year as well. And then the final thing that you do to earn the degree is an oral defense. And the oral defense, at that point, you've done everything, and a lot of the times, an oral defense is a kind of a really nice getting together of you and your supervisor and your second reader to get feedback on your project. They'll be really familiar with it by that point, and in a lot of cases, and also in the best cases, you're really talking about next steps. Then thinking about what you can do beyond the program, and getting some advice about maybe how to expand on your project or do similar work. A lot of people end up creating a ton of work for the program that they kind of have in the back pocket to go forward and apply for arts funding, grants, whatnot, and create further work down the road. So, yeah, so the program is 2 years, and it really is 2 full years, including the summers full time. You are registered continuously through the spring summer term until graduation. And I'll go through, stage by stage here what the program looks like. So when you enter in fall term, you're enrolled into 2 core credits, which are Documentary Studies 1 and then Fundamentals of Media 1. And Fundamentals of Media 1 actually is streamed into 2 sides. And basically, there's this moving image side, and then there's a photo new media side. And you get to decide which one you want to be in for that. You also take one of 2. Well, there's actually several electives, but usually the 2 that are offered are documentary as oppositional practice and media languages, which is actually one that I've taught several times in the past. You By the time you reach winter term, I'll just say a little bit about this. You in first term, you learn the kind of fundamentals of the discourse around documentary studies. Documentary Studies 1 is a heavily theoretical course, really brings you up to speed on current thinking about the ethics, practice, and theory of creating reality-based media. At the same time, you're taking a very intensive fundamentals of media course where you are creating work. In the film side, you would be creating, learning how to do sort of interview setups, creating short films, creating sound project as well. We try to get people started really early on with thinking about sound, which can sometimes be a bit of an afterthought for visual projects. And then on the photo side, you're doing photo book work. and working in still media. But we also welcome people into the program who are thinking about working in new media forms, and try to accommodate those varied needs in throughout the program. We have several faculty, including myself actually, who have sort of more digital specializations, and can help you find the path for new media projects that don't fit into that sort of traditional binary of either film or so either moving image or still image, right? So by the time you get into the winter term, you're now starting to do research on your project. So you're going to do a documentary studies 2, which is another theory-based course where you learn more about contemporary discourses on documentary studies. And then you do a documentary research methods course, which is quite intensive and teaches you how to do the process of research creation, which is what this degree is really all about. You know, you're finding a subject that interests you, but you're interrogating it in as rigorous way as possible, and using the ideas from the program and bouncing those ideas off faculty, your peers, to try and do as rigorous a project as you can. You also take another fundamentals of media course, which again is the same sort of streaming, moving image, photo, new media, where you continue on from what you've learned in the first semester, and do practical hands-on projects. You also, in the winter term, is actually the heaviest of the 2 years. The winter term of second year is arguably the heaviest, because you start a course line called Master's Project Development 1, which is really where you're now kind of putting, the ideas into practice and coming up with your master's project. Some people enter the program with a really good idea of what they want to do right off the bat, and they just, kind of go forward into this knowing exactly what they want to do. Some people enter with something and then decide they want to do something else. And some people actually enter the program and decide kind of in the midst of, I would say, this term, what they want to do. This carries on into a spring summer course, where you continue to develop your master's project. And then in the summer of the first year of the program is when students do the bulk of basically of the shooting or whatever it is that you're doing for your project. So you try to ideally by the end of the summer of the first year have everything in the can. So when you enter into the fall semester of the next year, you actually have all of the material you're going to be working with, all the material you're going to be editing, ready to go. So here's where you enter into Master Project Production 1, which is a production course based on the material that you have gathered. That is another intensive hands-on course. And then at the end of that course, on the moving image side, you ideally have basically a rough cut by about actually this time of the year, or the end of December. You ideally have a rough cut ready to go. During that term, you also take another advanced theory elective. And what those might be sort of changes from year to year, depending on what is on offering. You can see a list of the courses that are on offering. And you also can reach out beyond the doc media offerings to other schools within the university if there's something particularly that interests you, you just kind of have to get permission, and generally that can be facilitated in the program. Winter term is really where you finish your project. So the Master's Project Production 2, I'll be teaching that actually this winter. And students are entering into that with, we actually just did crits, second year crits. Oh, I should mention that. Second year crits happen actually this week, where students really present kind of like a snapshot of where they're at the end of the first semester of the second year. Really interesting projects, and most of them are quite well developed at this point. So that's always a really fun time to kind of sort of crystallize, like, this is what the cohort is going to look like. This is what the work is going to look like. You present to your peers and the faculty, who give you feedback on the project. And at this time, I should also say you have a first supervisor and a second supervisor who you're working with. This is all established actually by the end of first year. So I should have mentioned that as well. So the other really exciting course that you take, and this is sort of, this is a great one, is DM 8905, Professional Perspectives in Documentary. And that is a course that actually has its own kind of side budget put aside for bringing in guest lecturers and artists. It's currently taught by Sarah Angelucci, who actually confers with the students about their projects. We just did that 2 weeks ago, actually, and asks them which artists would they like to have invited, and actually invites them in. And students are basically assigned to different artists who give them feedback. And the list of artists really varies from year to year, depending on, it's very much tailored to the work that students are doing. So that brings me to the end of second year, which is Doc Now. And Doc Now is the festival. It was actually started by students in the program way back, and has evolved into a basically a combination over multiple days. It's usually in June, sometimes a little bit into July for gallery shows. But it includes a film festival. Usually it's a couple of nights at a local venue in Toronto. Those have ranged from the Hot Docs Theater. Last year was at the Carlton Theater. This year they are, it looks like they're going to be doing the Paradise Theater on Bloor Street, if you know that venue. And it's really a great opportunity on the gallery side as well to show your work either in our own art space gallery, which is in 401 Richmond, which, if you know Toronto, that's a sort of artistic hub right in the middle of the city. We have a space right in there that we set aside time for Doc Now at this time, or actually in other galleries. And there have been shows in a wide variety of art galleries across Toronto. This is an opportunity to get friends, family, and the wider public of Toronto in to see your work. It's always a really exciting and pretty intense process, but you get the experience of putting on a film festival, doing a gallery show, and really emerging from the program with this practical experience under your belt. Like, not only have you created work, but you know the ins and outs of fundraising, of putting on a show, of running a show, managing a show. There are committees for everything within this process, and and then showing your work in a high caliber public place in Toronto. So that brings me, I just wanted to show you, this was Doc Now's from last year. It included, this was last June, it included 6 exhibitions in Gallery 1313, the Image Center, which is actually the TMU Image Center in the building that is pictured right behind me there, which is where the program is located it's the Image Arts building. The Art Space Gallery, which I already mentioned, which is the one in 401 Richmond, and Beaver Hall, which is another really well-known gallery in Toronto. Then there were 12 films shown over, I believe it was actually 4 nights. I know it was 4 nights last June at the Carlton Cinema. And so just to finish off here before I hand it back over to Daniel, I was just going to show you a quick 1-minute trailer from last year's Doc Now Festival, and I'll be sticking around to answer questions afterwards. So.
So yeah, I'm going to go over a few of the more of the administrative sort of admissions and funding opportunities and things like that, what basically what you do to get into the program. I might ask Owen to provide some feedback on some of the admission requirements and things like that, and then we'll follow up with the Q&A afterwards. So first thing I want to introduce is the Yates School of Graduate Studies, which is sort of the faculty for all graduate programs here at the university. And basically everything to do with policy, admissions, funding, administrative things, they are sort of like the ones that we are sort of part of, and they manage all those areas. We're also part of the creative school, which is our faculty where the School of Image Arts lives, which is where the documentary media program is housed. And so we basically have connection with two different faculties. And so I just wanted to point out sort of the difference between the two so you know who to contact for, whatever questions you may have. So anything to do with admissions policies and funding, you basically are looking at the Yates School of Graduate Studies website, which is torontomu.ca/graduate. If you have questions about general admission inquiries, maybe you're looking for having issues with application links or how to submit or what some documents or things like that, then that would be gradhelp@torontomu.ca. And if you have more program-specific questions, if you want to contact us directly at the program, which is actually docmedia@torontomu.ca. I'll put that in the chat in a little bit as well for you guys, but that's where if you have more specific questions about the program or content or specifically what to put in the portfolio, those kinds of things, and maybe issues with like, oh, my portfolio is not uploading or things like that, then go to docmedia@torontomu.ca. All right, in terms of the application process, we're looking at the first consideration deadline, which is January 19th. And I really encourage everybody to apply by this date because that way we can make sure that we guarantee we review your application, but we also, it allows us to make sure that we can consider you for all the funding opportunities. So if you apply by then, we can make sure we can put your name forward for the scholarships. Depending on how many applications we receive and how quickly we get responses and offers and all those different things, we will decide at that point to close the admission process later on. So that's why we want to always recommend January 19th, but we will continue accepting applications until the program is full. Now, we also started this year a preferred deadline of December 10th for international students. And this one is mainly so that you have enough time to get to the study permits and visa process and all those kinds of things. So if you submit your application earlier, then we are sure that we have all the international applications hopefully by January 19th. And so they are all ready, and then we can start sending responses sooner just to make sure that international students have access or have enough time rather to prepare for the study permits and stuff like that. So that's sort of why there's two deadlines in there. But basically, if you apply by January 19th, that's or before, that's the ideal scenario. Okay. And in terms of the application process, it's actually a two-step process. The first step is to submit your application to the Ontario University's Application Center, or OUAC. This is basically just letting the Ontario University's Application Center know that you want to come to TMU to go to documentary media MFA. You basically pay a fee, enter your contact information, enter your academic information, as well as the contact information for your referees, for the people who are going to write your letters of recommendation. And that's step one. Then that goes to the graduate admissions office here at TMU, and they will then send you an email, usually within 2 or 3 business days, letting you know how to upload the rest of your application. So this will be your portfolio, your CV, statement of interest, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. At the same time that you get that email, your referees, your professors writing your letters of recommendation, will also get their own email, so they can then upload their letters of recommendation, right? So if you're looking for a timeline, that's more or less when they will get it. You don't upload the letters of recommendation yourself. Your referees will have to do it at their end. Okay, so just make sure when you speak to them, give them enough time, and we'll talk about that, but also let them know to look for an email from TMU around the same time that you get yours. Okay, all right. And so right now, the only tip would be if you decided you want to apply, you can start step 1 now. You don't have to do step 1 and step 2 right away. You can do step 1 now, get everything ready, and then as you get all the rest of your documents ready, then you start uploading them. And then that way you can make sure that you have everything ready by January 19th. Because what has happened in the past, and people wait until the 18th, 17th, and depending how the weekends fall, sometimes that creates an extra 2 or 3 days delay, and then now your application is not submitted until after the 20th or so of January. So make sure that you try to do it as soon as you can, just to make sure that we can put you forward for all the scholarships and so on. All right, so I want to go briefly through some of the admission requirements, and again, Owen, feel free to jump in if there's anything I'm missing there, but in terms of academic requirements, 4-year bachelor's degree, minimum GPA of 3.0 out of 4.33, which is the TMU GPA scale, or a B equivalent. If you come from a different university, a graduate admissions will review your transcript and calculate whatever the equivalents are based on the university you come from. This is just basically, and that applies for both domestic and international. So all you have to really worry about is submit your degree, make sure you have all your transcripts, prepare them. For the purpose of application, you can submit unofficial transcripts. So if you have a university portal, you can just download them. You can use those. That's not a problem. We don't need the official transcripts until you get an offer of admission. And then at that point, admissions will ask you for the official transcript. Okay. Statement of interest and project proposal. So this one is a small statement, 500 to 700 words. And basically, we want to know a little bit about you, who you are, what's your background, why you want to come to the program, also why you think this is the right program for you, as well as any sort of ideas for a project that you may already have. So what do you want to work on? What drives you? What is it that you're looking to get out of the program? And more or less what you want to do afterwards as well. So a little bit of an intro of before, now, and after, and how we are sort of a good match for you as a student in documentary media. Owen, anything you want to add for this one?
Only maybe that in the statement of interest, if you're coming from sort of like a non-traditional background, it's an opportunity to sort of connect the dots on your CV. And let us know, if you're a later career artist, or it's been a while since you've been in school, this is a good time to write about that.
Excellent, thank you. The next component will be a CV/resume. Again, here is just to highlight your previous experience. Ideally, I think a CV will be a little better because it's a little more. There's more information on it of everything you've sort of done, and shows and events and things, anything that you think will support your statement of interest. And so that the committee can see, oh, this is what they want to do based on their statement of interest, and this is what they've done. It makes sense, it works. That's basically what you want to do, right? So again, a presentation card with everything you think would be related to what you want to do in the program. And just make sure you put it in there, and that should be good. There's no necessarily a length limit on this one, so add everything you think will be related to it. Letters of recommendation. We should recommend, we require 2 references. We recommend academic references. And this would be things like all professors or instructors that know your work and know you academically. It is a Master of Fine Arts program, so we want to make sure you have the skills in the background academically, as well as the skills in terms of your creativity for your work and stuff like that. So that's where an academic reference is preferred. However, we understand that many of you may have taken time away from school before coming to MFA, or maybe you have a lot of practice in the field, professional practice. So you could also submit a professional recommendation. The only advice I would provide here is when you speak to your referees, we always give them as much time as possible. So you're thinking applying, talk to them yesterday. Make sure that they already know. Talk, give them a chat, send them an email. If you can, take them out for coffee and talk about what you want to do in the program and your statement of interest, your CV. If you just contacting by email, send them your documents so they know what what you're doing, and they have a more of a background information about you, so they can write a really good letter. With professional reference, that's probably even more important if they've never written a letter for a university application, because a lot of times in the professional background, it may be more of a, yes, I recommend this person for the program, and it kind of stops there. So, but for us, and as the admissions committee and the program, we want to know why you're a good person. How your skills and the work that you did with them prepare you for the program. What kind of achievements you've done together, what kind of projects you've done together, and that's the kind of thing that would really help the committee make sure and get to know you better and understand why you're applying to the program. So that's just a little tip. If you're adding a professional, make sure that you speak to your referee and tell them to provide as much information as possible. Okay. And lastly, for letters of recommendation, I would say once you submit your documents and you have access to the upload portal, you'll be able to see what's missing, what hasn't been completed. So make sure you follow up with your referees because until the application is complete, we won't be able to actually review it or see it. So you got to make sure that you take a look in your portal, the letter of recommendation is submitted, check, everything else is checked. Then we know your application is complete. And then at that point, we can see it. Otherwise, you just get stuck in the limbo of the admission system until everything gets submitted. And unfortunately, with the emails, some of the emails that TMU sends might go into the spam of the referees. So just double check with them they got it, make sure they submitted it, and then you'll be good to go. Okay. Before I move on, anything else, Owen, that you want to add to this one?
No, I guess is the CV. Sorry, the work is next on the next slide. I'll add something.
Yes.
To that. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. There you go. Visual portfolio. So you do have to submit a visual portfolio, of course. It is a creative program, so we want to see what you've done. The portfolio can be pretty much a variety of things. And I'm going to speak more of maybe more of the technical side of things of submitting it. And then Owen, I'll let you speak more about the content itself. So in terms of the technical things, so the system will only accept PDF files when you upload your portfolio. So you have to organize your portfolio in a way that it can work with the PDF. So for example, you can do images work in a PDF, no problem. 10 to 15 digital images showcasing the best work, who you are, what you've done. It can be a combination of maybe a single project, a few images, or it can be just a selection of your best work, really up to you. Just want to showcase the best of the best that you've done, but they have to be in a PDF format. If you're submitting a film or video or maybe interactive work or based on a website or audio, you have to basically create some sort of link that you would add to the PDF instead. So if it's a video, maybe send us a link to your YouTube channel or the YouTube video, sorry, or a Vimeo or one of those. If it's a website, well, if it's your portfolio website, great. Just put the link in there. If it is a website, just make sure that you indicate exactly what part of your website we need to look at. Don't just say, hey, my website's danielgarcia.ca. Go take a look at everything. Make sure you indicate, okay, this is the portions I want you to take a look at. This is the specific projects I want. If you can create sort of like a portfolio website specifically for the doc media, that'll make it easier for the committee, and they will appreciate that. That way they don't have to be searching throughout everything. In terms of the URL or the links that you send us, make sure that the PDF that you create is clickable, so you can actually click on it and it'll take us there. Or at the worst case scenario, make sure the link is fully there and try to make it a short link. So if worst case scenario, the clicking part doesn't work, the committee admissions committee members can just go in there and say YouTube/1234 and done. And they can easily access it, because unfortunately we receive portfolios in the past where they just say, click here. And the click doesn't work, so that's over. So make sure you check that out on your end. To test the PDFs, send it to a friend, send it to your family, send someone just to click on it, make sure it works. Because sometimes in the saving part, it gets a little corrupt or something like that, and it may not be the best option. Owen, over to you if you want to add more of the content side of things.
No, yeah, I wanted to just reiterate that last point. I know it's a technical detail, but please do just yeah, I know if you're making the portfolio look tidy and nice, it's ugly to have this giant URL in there, but just include it just so that if it comes to it, we can just copy and paste the URL if it doesn't click through. It's just an important thing that but I just want to speak just to the content. I would say put your best work forward and try to speak to it in your statement as well as much as you can. It's always great to get backing up what you're talking about in your personal statement as well. Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. And this actually does remind me, and usually we get the question like, can we add a little statement about the piece that we submitted? Yes, please add a little, few words just about it. Feel free to do that. And just make that obviously look nice in the PDF, but you can definitely do that. We usually get that question. So thanks, Owen, just remind me that. Okay, we can, if you have more questions about portfolio, stuff like that, we'll talk about it in the Q&A. I'm just gonna move to the next thing here, and that's funding. So the program will provide funding based on your admission application. We usually provide funding to all of our students. This will range depending on when you submit your application, and so we have like a sort of ranking system. The type of awards that we provide, you don't have to apply for them. It's just based on your admissions application. So they range between $2,000 and $6,000. This is the Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Fellowship, usually for domestic students, and the Toronto Metropolitan Graduate Development Award, usually for international students. And then we also have the Ontario Graduate Fellowship. This one usually goes to the top applicant. That's a $12,000 award for 1 year. And then we'll usually have it again for future years. That program is a 2-year program. So this funding that you receive in admissions will be for the first year. And then on the spring, summer of before your second year, we'll notify you what your funding amount will be for the second year. Again, we usually are able to provide some funding. It's just the amounts will vary depending on the budgets and how many people actually going to continue in the second year, those kinds of things. So, but we'll let you know that before you start your second year. On top of that, we have other program awards. These ones are awards that are either from donors, from companies, from different places in the university that we will notify you via email throughout the year. Some of them are to help, international students with tuition. Some of them are to help your projects to go and do some traveling or equipment purchase or things like that. So it's I want to say about 4 or 5 that we have from donors, and then we have other ones that we create internally as well to provide students with additional funding. On top of that, we have the external funding scholarships. One of the big ones is the Ontario Graduate Scholarship, and then we have our own version internally, the Toronto Met Graduate Scholarship. These ones are $15,000 for 1 year. And basically, we will calculate the eligibility for students based on the GPA. Usually it tends to do with, it's the last 2 years of completed study. It's an A- requirement for each of those 2 years. We will notify you via email around February or March that you've met the criteria. As an applicant, we'll use your admissions application as well. So all you really need to do in for the first year is complete a form saying that you agree you want to apply for the award when we email you, and that's it. For the second year in the program, you'll have a second chance to apply, and at that point, we'll provide some more information. Again, usually in January, February, March, for you to submit your application for the OGS scholarship for the second year. The other award is the Social Sciences and Humanities Research Council Canada Graduate Scholarship Award, or SHRC for short. This one is a 17,500, I think. This one's for domestic only. Same criteria, is an A- average in the last 2 years of completed study. This one, the deadline just passed for, I guess, for December 1st for incoming, but you will have a second opportunity to apply when you go in between your first year going towards your second year. So around December 1st, it'll likely be the deadline for next year as well. So we'll notify usually students around October the ones that are eligible, hey, start looking into this, they're applying. We usually have like workshops and stuff like that. We have a place in the university called the Catalyst, which is all about research, and we have a lot of grad students have access to that, and so they'll usually organize a workshop to help you guys apply for scholarships, but also for any other funding opportunities that that may come across. Okay, so those are the two external big ones right now. And then on top of that, this one I'm just going to sort of show you the links, and we'll put some of these links in the chat in a little bit. There's also a big list of scholarships that the Graduate Studies YSGS has actually created on their website. And this one just basically you have to take a look and see which ones you qualify for. So just make sure you go on the website and see. There's a big list. There's also a section at the very bottom of the website. It's called other external opportunities. It's another big list of stuff that you should check out. Those ones we don't control. They're, as the name says, external. But so depending on your background, your research topic, what you're trying to do, you may qualify for some and others. So it's just a matter of going through and make sure you apply for those. Another option for funding is graduate assistant, research assistant, or teaching assistant positions. And for this ones, same idea. You can apply for all the ones that we posted. Generally speaking, they'll be posted usually at the start of the term, but sometimes throughout the academic year. So it's just a matter of going to the torontomu.ca/careers website. And in there, you can sort of see what's available. So you can even go now and see what's more or less what's happening. I mean, right now it's the end of term, but it might give you an idea as to who's posting, what are the type of postings that are there, and so on. Again, based on your background, you may be eligible for some of the graduate students that we have in our school or in our faculty, but the postings will also include other faculties in the university. So if maybe your background is history or biology or engineering, or I don't know, you might be able to apply for those assistantships as well. And there's another good source of funding. And then lastly, we have career boost positions, which is also positions within the university, but these ones might be in a variety of different areas, sometimes in the labs or in the equipment facilities, or maybe someone just need a sort of help with a particular project and so on. So the idea is just to apply for those. I actually have had a doc media student who helped work with me, for example, to develop some of the website stuff for the programs, or help with some of the social media. So a variety of positions that you can actually have. And again, this is are usually reserved for students. Okay. All right. So I know there's a lot of info, but again, we'll put all the links in the chat for you guys so you have them, and you can always take a look at that. And then lastly, just before we start the Q&A session, you want to take a look at the emails here and write them down, keep them for later. I'm sure there'll be more questions that come up after today. That's okay. So again, for our program office or for the administration team, you can email docmedia@torontomu.ca. These are for things like admission requirements, admission questions, system issues, anything related to the program. Go and email us. For more academic specific questions or curriculum, that's where you can email Program Director, Dr. Owen Lyons at owen.lyons@torontomu.ca. All right, and with that, I'm going to stop sharing the slides, and then we can start the Q&A session. Now, feel free to either raise your hand and ask your question, or put it in the chat, or we also have a Q&A, so go for it. Isabel, go for it.
Hey, thanks for the session so far. I was wondering, in regards to our referees, if we can provide more than 2, or if it's only 2 that we can provide.
I believe it's only 2, right, Daniel?
Okay.
Yeah, on the system, you can only provide 2. It won't allow you to put any more than that. So it's 2. Oh, and I don't know if the review committee will accept, or if you just add an extra letter in your
I've never seen more than 2.
Like the OUAC application allows you to insert 3. That's why
I think Isabel, by the time it gets to us, it's 2. So I would just go with your 2 strongest. I've actually never seen more than 2. Okay, great. Thank you.
Just in the note of the OUAC, when you look at that, make sure that you're not looking at the potential supervisor section, because the system sometimes asks you to say, okay, which is my stream, film, photo, new media. It may also ask you, can you name 2 or 3 potential supervisors that you may want to work with when you're in the program? Now, it's not binding. It's just to give the committee an idea of who you may be interested in working, just to make sure it's based on their area of studies and so on. And for that, by the way, you can check our website. You'll see some of the faculty profiles there, so you can add that information.
Thank you.
Welcome. Emilia, go ahead.
Hi there, thanks for the session. I was just wondering generally how many applicants are admitted into the program. I'm just curious.
Daniel, do you know the numbers on that? I don't have a exact.
Yeah, for this year, I believe our target is going to be around between 22 and 24, I believe. I mean, that's right now we have a bigger cohort than normal. I think we hit about 25. It might be actually lower this year. The targets are sort of set a little bit later in the year. Now, normally in the past, we've landed between 18 and 24. So my guess is going to be around there, 10 to 20. Again, depending on if we have excellent applications, we might take a few more like we did last year. Again, it will vary a little bit around there, but usually around that, because that way allows us also to keep it sort of balanced between sort of like the film sort of area as well as the photography new media area.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Tim, go ahead.
Hi, thank you. Can you hear me? I'm not sure if my phones are picking up. Yep, excellent. I actually now have two questions. I wanted to pick up on something that Isabel had said about supervisors. In the number of different sessions like this that I've been attending, it's been varied in how much priority is given to establishing contact with potential supervisors prior to applying, and I wondered what this program's philosophy on that was.
Yeah, you don't have to contact a supervisor beforehand. You can, but it's definitely good to mention someone who you would like to work with and connect them with your work in your application package.
Okay. Great. My other question was for Owen. During your talk, you had mentioned that early in the second year, at some point, there would be opportunities to engage with other departments, and that pinged for me particularly because one of the ideas I had about pitching would have been in collaboration with the drama department, with theater, because most of my work is rooted in theater, and the idea of doing videography around their programs, around their productions, is something I'm considering as part of my pitch, and I wanted to know if that was within scope of working with other departments.
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. And I should also say hi again, Tim, because Tim
was nice to see you.
Going to one of the other sessions. That's a really interesting question, and I would really encourage that. You can. So what I had mentioned was the advanced theory electives that you can take a course from another department. Now there might be something in theater that might be more appropriate for you. But you definitely, during the course of the program, and I would, upon entering, I would almost do this right away, is just reach out to the theater faculty. And I know several of them myself, and start talking to them. What would maybe be a good arrangement is that if you have a first supervisor in the program and your second advisor is from the performance department, that could be something that would, sometimes that's how it sort of pans out. The first supervisor works with you primarily, but second supervisors, or second readers, sometimes they're called, vary in engagement. Sometimes they're really integral, and sometimes they're entering in more towards the end to read and to critique your project closer to the defense. But in your case, if you wanted to get up and running on, I personally am really interested in documentary theater, and I teach a little bit of it in the elective media languages, and so we really encourage those sort of like outside of the box approaches to documentary media as well.
Thank you for that. Just to confirm, you said that was the media languages class. You touched on that?
Yeah, it's CD 8320. I do a session. I do a unit in that where I look at Rimini Protocol, who are a Berlin-based theater group who do documentary theater. I also, it's sort of an expansive definition of documentary in that course. So we even look at things like documentary video games, which sounds like a oxymoron, but they exist, and there's really, really interesting work being done in that field.
Well, thank you very much.
And if I can add something, actually, I just went to the digital media, which is another program we have in our faculty, digital media, master digital media program, to the showcase last week. And I think they actually had something like you just mentioned, Owen. So in terms of partnering with other grad students to make these things happen, the Catalyst and places like that will be the best place to do that, because you'll basically just meet each other, say, hey, I'm trying to work on this. What are you working on? I'm doing in some sort of, video game, because they do that in the program. Oh, great. I want to do this, but I want to do documentary style. So there's a lot of place that you can actually collaborate with other students. So definitely push for it as much as you can, really. It's the best part. We have 12 graduate programs in our faculty now. So lots to choose from, anything from fashion, interior design, doc media. You can really go across in terms of partnering and working with other students.
Great, that's brilliant.
And many, many faculty in a really wide range of things. So,
all right. Any other questions you guys may
I have a
go for it.
question. Thanks for the session today. How many of the 21 students are usually international?
Oh, good question. Daniel, what was it this year? 4?
Maybe we had like no, we had more than 4.
More than 4, yeah.
We had like about 6. I would say I have to double check the specific numbers. This year we had about 6. I wouldn't say almost 7. It varies every year. It does depend on the obviously number of applications and timing. The last few years with COVID has always been a little bit of a different story, just because of study permits. Hence, we have sort of like the earlier deadline for internationals. So I would just, if you're interested, I would say apply as soon as you can. And that way we can make sure that we can sort of review everything and give students or applicants rather more time for this study permits, right? So, but we try to, we always, we do have sort of like a domestic target, but we try to include as many international as well, just because it adds to the program, right? Having a bigger sort of excuse the metaphor, but a melting pot together of different ideas, it always works better. And I think the program has always been very good at that, where even the students that we have, they don't all necessarily come from a specific background. They come from a variety of backgrounds, right? And not just like location, but also their academics and things like that are different. So it always adds to the final products in the festival and all the projects.
Okay, and I just want to remember, so international students can work, right, while studying?
I'm not an immigration officer, so I don't know. But okay. I do believe some of our students who are international with their study permit can work. However, what I'll do is I'll put we have an international student support department. They are actually trained that they know more about this. I'll put the link in the chat for you. And then when you can reach out to them and say, hey, I'm interested in applying. And I think it really does just depend on making sure that you choose the right study permit. I think there's different versions of it. But if you get the right one, again, just from what I've heard, some of them allow you to work only on campus, some allow you to work outside. So it's just a matter of choosing the right thing to apply for, if that makes sense. But I'll put the international student support link on the chat for you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just to reiterate that Daniel and I are not experts on that. So I know there have been international students in the program who have worked, but it really does matter in terms of the immigration status, and it's a question better sorted out on the Government of Canada website, like to figure out the actual details for your situation.
Okay.
I just added the link there for you. And yes, the link for the Immigration Canada is there too, so you can also check out their options and what's the best steps to do it. But good thing you're starting early. Start as early as you can. It is a big. But these days we don't even know how long it takes, so make sure you take a look in there and see what happens.
And we really had a wide range of students from different backgrounds, including Iran, Lebanon, Colombia, Mexico, a really wide Japan, China. We've had a really wide range of students coming from different places, and it's a really rich environment for that.
That's great.
Isabel.
Hi again. I'm wondering with the suggested deadline when students start hearing back with admission offers when they start going out.
It's so it would be, is it March, Daniel? It's pretty much then, yeah.
And it will be on an ongoing basis too.
Mm.
So like January 19th are like the start of, okay, now we have all the applications. So in the first round, if you want to call it. And then from there, we review those, send them as early as March, or if we can sooner, but usually it takes some time to go through all of them. And then you just ongoing basis, right? So we send some offers, we wait for responses, then send more, and then wait. And so it's a little bit of a back and forth. So sometimes if we haven't responded to you guys, it's not because we don't want to, it's because we have to wait for some of the deadlines to pass by, and then we can send more offers out.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And actually, just to note on that for international students, usually depending on the number of offers we received, applications we received, sorry, we usually close the applications no later than March 15, if I remember correctly, is the deadline. Because after that, it's highly unlikely that there'll be enough time to process a study permit. Yeah. So another, apply early if you can. If there's no more questions, we can, I think look at the time, it's just 6:36. We're still somewhat on time. So, thank you very much, guys. Thank you for everything. If you do have any more questions, I'm going to put the contact page on the chat so you can reach out to us. Feel free to ask any other questions later on. And but again, thank you very much for coming by.
Yeah, thanks very much, everyone. It's nice to meet you all, and nice to meet you again, Tim. Don't hesitate to reach out with questions.